Australian resident Jessica Wongso has been charged with the murder of Mina Salihin. Police allege she poisoned her friend by adding cyanide to her coffee.
Jessica itu kan kayak setan itu. Deep inside is something like the evil gitu.
Christopher Hariman Rianto was born in Jakarta on January 2, 1988. He is male, Catholic, and holds Indonesian citizenship. He has completed a Master of Business Information Technology and Management, postgraduate degree, from Monash University in Melbourne, Australia, and a Bachelor of Computing, undergraduate degree, from the same institution. Currently, he works as a director at PT Sistemindo Teknitama Mandiri, a company specializing in digital forensics, cybersecurity, and high-tech security. In 2016, Tito Karnavian, serving as the chief of the Jakarta Metropolitan Police, and Krishna Murthy, the director of general crimes at the Jakarta Metropolitan Police, utilized the expertise of Christopher Hariman Rianto as a forensic expert in the high-profile case of Jessica Kumala Wongso. Rianto's role was pivotal, especially given the contentious nature of the evidence, which included CCTV footage from Café Olivier. Krishna Murthy, in particular, played an active role in this process. He was present when Christopher Hariman Rianto presented his forensic analysis during the trial on August 10, 2016. Rianto's analysis was crucial in the prosecution's case, as it involved detailed examination and interpretation of the CCTV footage, which was alleged to have been manipulated. His testimony aimed to support the prosecution's narrative by providing expert insights into the evidence's technical aspects. The involvement of high-ranking police officials like Tito Karnavian and Krishna Murthy in endorsing and presenting forensic evidence underscored the importance of Rianto's role in the case. Their reliance on his expertise highlighted the critical need for specialized knowledge in digital forensics to build a compelling case against Jessica Kumala Wongso. However, this also brought to light concerns about the integrity of the forensic evidence and the potential implications of digital tampering, which remained a contentious issue throughout the trial. Christopher Hariman Rianto played a crucial role as a digital forensic expert in the controversial case of Jessica Kumala Wongso. Along with his colleague, Muhammad Nuh Al-Azhar, Rianto was implicated in manipulating the CCTV footage from Café Olivier, which was central to the prosecution's case. Their actions involved downscaling the video resolution from 1080p to 960h, a deliberate act that obscured vital details and compromised the integrity of the evidence. This manipulation created significant challenges in discerning specific actions or movements in the footage, thereby raising doubts about its reliability. Rianto's involvement in the manipulation of the footage had far-reaching implications for the trial. The downscaling of the video became a focal point of Wongso's defense, as it was argued that this tampering cast serious doubt on the prosecution's narrative. The defense contended that the compromised footage undermined the credibility of the allegations against Jessica, highlighting the need for rigorous forensic scrutiny to uncover the truth. The digital tampering orchestrated by Rianto and his colleague not only impacted the perception of the events but also brought into question the overall fairness of the legal proceedings. The case of Jessica Kumala Wongso, and particularly the role of Christopher Hariman Rianto, underscores the critical importance of integrity in forensic analysis. The manipulation of evidence through downscaling was a blatant attempt to distort reality, posing a severe threat to the pursuit of justice. This instance of digital tampering by Rianto and his colleague stands as a stark reminder of the potential for abuse within the forensic field and the necessity for stringent oversight and transparency to maintain trust in the legal process. Christopher Hariman Rianto deliberately manipulated the CCTV footage to create discrepancies in the coffee's color, thereby strengthening the suspicion of cyanide presence due to the perceived differences. By splitting the footage into two segments with different resolutions, he introduced significant visual inconsistencies that affected the forensic comparison. In segment 1, from 1535 to 1659, he downscaled the footage to 960 by 576 pixels with a frame rate of 10 frames per second. This reduction in resolution resulted in a loss of color detail, making it difficult to accurately capture and analyze the coffee's color when it was served. In segment 2, from 1659 to 1825, the footage remained at the original high-definition resolution of 1920 by 1080 pixels with a frame rate of 25 frames per second. The higher resolution in this segment allowed for clearer and more detailed color representation when the coffee cup was taken after Myrna Salihin drank from it. This deliberate manipulation created a misleading visual comparison. The lower resolution in the first segment obscured fine color details, making the coffee appear different from the second segment's clearer footage. This apparent difference in coffee color was used to support the suspicion of cyanide presence, as the color change was interpreted as evidence of a chemical reaction. Rianto's actions thus introduced a bias into the forensic analysis, leading to incorrect conclusions about the presence of cyanide and strengthening the prosecution's case against Jessica Kumala Wongso based on manipulated evidence. These engineered differences in coffee color were then utilized by toxicologists Nursimran Subandi and Imade Agus Jelgel as a starting point for their analysis of cyanide decomposition. The altered footage led them to interpret the color changes as evidence of a chemical reaction indicative of cyanide presence. However, the reduced resolution in the first segment obscured critical color details, leading to inaccurate conclusions. The reliance on manipulated footage as the basis for their toxicological analysis introduced significant uncertainties, undermining the reliability of their findings and, consequently, the prosecution's case against Jessica Kumala Wongso. Christopher Hariman Rianto's motive for manipulating the CCTV-9 footage was to strengthen the prosecution's case against Jessica Kumala Wongso by fabricating evidence that supported the presence of cyanide in the coffee. By creating discrepancies in the coffee's color through deliberate resolution changes, Rianto aimed to produce visual evidence that could be interpreted as a chemical reaction indicative of cyanide. This manipulation provided a basis for the toxicologist's analysis, which ultimately bolstered the prosecution's argument and increased the likelihood of securing a conviction. Christopher Hariman Rianto also deliberately manipulated the CCTV-7 footage by splitting it into two segments with different resolutions and frame rates, significantly impacting the forensic analysis of the stirrer's position. Segment 1, from 1557 to 1717, retained the full high-definition resolution of 1920 by 1080 pixels and a frame rate of 25 frames per second. Segment 2, from 1717 to 1839, was downscaled to 960 by 576 pixels and had its frame rate reduced to 10 frames per second. This manipulation occurred just before Myrna Salihin arrived at Olivier Café at 1718 local time. By reducing the resolution and frame rate in Segment 2, where the position of the stirrer needed to be analyzed, Rianto effectively blurred the crucial details. This loss of clarity and detail made it challenging to accurately interpret the position and movements of the stirrer. Such manipulation obscured potentially critical information that could shed light on the sequence of events and the actions of individuals at the café, particularly concerning the interaction with the stirrer. The deliberate downscaling introduced visual distortions that compromised the integrity and credibility of the evidence. The inconsistency between the high-definition Segment 1 and the lower-resolution Segment 2 raised questions about the motives behind the alterations. This manipulation cast doubt on the reliability of the entire CCTV recording, undermining the trustworthiness of the evidence presented in the legal proceedings and challenging the prosecution's narrative. Christopher Hariman Rianto's motive for manipulating the CCTV-7 footage appears to be to obscure the movements of Myrna Salihin's hand as she reached for the stirrer from the table, thereby framing Jessica Wongso as the person who placed the stirrer into the coffee glass. By deliberately reducing the resolution and frame rate of the footage, Rianto intended to blur and distort the crucial moments, making it difficult to accurately observe and interpret Myrna's actions. This manipulation served a dual purpose. First, it created visual ambiguities that concealed Myrna's act of picking up the stirrer, which could suggest that someone else, namely Jessica, had already placed the stirrer in the glass. The altered footage would then support the narrative that Jessica Wongso was involved in tampering with the coffee, potentially lacing it with cyanide. Second, by obscuring these key details, Rianto aimed to strengthen the prosecution's case against Jessica Wongso. If the footage clearly showed Myrna's hand movements, it could exonerate Jessica by demonstrating that Myrna herself interacted with the stirrer in a manner inconsistent with the prosecution's accusations. Therefore, the deliberate blurring and downscaling of the footage were intended to remove any visual evidence that might contradict the prosecution's allegations. In essence, Christopher Hariman Rianto's actions were driven by a motive to manipulate the visual evidence in a way that would support the prosecution's case against Jessica Wongso. By hiding Myrna Salihin's hand movements, Rianto aimed to falsely implicate Jessica as the person who tampered with the coffee, thus bolstering the narrative of her guilt and increasing the likelihood of her conviction. These are two clear instances of manipulation carried out by Christopher Hariman Rianto. In addition to the downscaling of CCTV footage from cameras 7 and 9, he also manipulated footage from CCTV cameras 2, 3, 4, and 15. Notably, Rianto converted the color video from CCTV cameras 2 and 3 to grayscale. This conversion effectively eliminated crucial color information about the coffee, the remnants of the coffee consumed by Myrna Salihin and others, and whether the leftover coffee was stored in one bottle with 2 glasses or 2 glasses in one bottle, as handled by Devi Siagian at the end of the cocktail bar table on the right, which should have been captured by CCTV 2. Rianto also converted the color video from CCTV 15 to grayscale. This manipulation obscured critical details such as the presence of a straw or stirrer, as well as color information about the coffee in the remnants consumed by Myrna Salihin, Hani, and others. These deliberate actions hindered the ability to track the whereabouts of the stirrer or straw and assess the color changes in the coffee, which could have been vital in reconstructing the events and verifying the integrity of the evidence presented. Christopher Hariman Rianto's motive for manipulating the CCTV 2, 3, 4, 5, and 15 footage appears to be to distort the evidence in order to falsely implicate Jessica Wongso in the poisoning case of Myrna Salihin. By downscaling the resolution and converting color footage to grayscale, Rianto aimed to obscure crucial details and create ambiguities in the visual evidence. This would support the prosecution's narrative by hiding significant actions, such as eliminating key visual information about the coffee, its remnants, and the handling of the evidence by others. The manipulation was intended to strengthen the case against Jessica Wongso by presenting tampered evidence that falsely suggested her involvement, thereby increasing the likelihood of her conviction. This motive underscores a deliberate attempt to obstruct justice and ensure a particular outcome in the trial, regardless of the actual events.